Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Free Real Estate Advice Fridays. Haven't been here in a minute. I would say that past couple months when I've been doing this, that I don't get to do this enough, and trying to get back into the routine here. I'm also broadcasting live to Instagram today. That's kind of a new addition, so hopefully that's working out. It looks a little laggy on my end, so um, if it is looking laggy on your end, just let me know. Just curious for trying to tweak the technical stuff here. Let me grab my mic. So I want to keep this pretty quick because it's kind of later in the day and I'm trying to get out of here pretty soon. But let's talk a little bit about real estate in 2024 because I think we're about to see some shifts in the market. I'm getting a ton of questions. I just noticed a lot of people are that have been kind of in the pipeline, so to speak, have been looking for a little while, but we're kind of waiting out. Interest rates and stuff like that are starting to call me. It is also a new year, so that's generally when I start getting those calls. But as I'm sure almost all of you know, interest rates are going down. I did see today they are up a little bit from last week. Generally, I always tell people when interest rates start going down, you will see, some blips. But I think you should expect to see the trends continue to move downwards in the coming weeks and months. So it's definitely time to get started. So I'm going to kind of revisit a conversation that I've talked about many times in the past of, if you find yourself in the class of people that's like, we're going to make a move sooner than later. We're not looking right away. I figure, the people that are going to work with me and are looking right away, they're going to buy something in the next few weeks or months. You're probably already talking to me. If you're not, you're more than welcome to. It's never too early to engage a realtor. Um, I think the biggest mistake that people make is waiting too long and not really putting the same due diligence into finding their agent as they do into finding their home. And that can be a huge mistake. There's quite a spectrum of realtors out there, not just in terms of quality, but also in terms of personality. You want to make sure you're working with someone that you can get along with well and that you're confident is an expert. And, I'm confident I'm that person for you, but obviously, if you engage a realtor early, you can make those choices instead of just going with whoever happens to be available when you decide to go out and start looking at houses. That is the biggest mistake that I think people make. A good portion of my clients, that's how I meet them. They find me on, I'm working with someone now that found me on realtor.com. But literally, found me a day before they wanted to go looking at homes. And that's definitely not what I would recommend. It's just like anything. I mean, it's probably like one of the few um, situations where people are making a major, major financial transaction where you're going to need a lot of advising and strategic decisions and financial decisions and everything else. And for some reason, the good majority of the public just kind of grabs a realtor. It's kind of a willy-nilly process. They don't really look into it too much. They're just like, this person will do, and they pick an agent. Definitely don't recommend that route. There's just so much. As I always say, it doesn't take much to become a realtor. It takes a lot to be a successful realtor. It's probably the biggest thing I tell new agents or people that are considering the industry is like, listen, you can pass the test and hang your license in a brokerage. It's not a big hiring process. I mean, to find a brokerage that will take you on is super easy. So all those things to become a realtor, super easy. To be a good one is a lot more involved. So this actually starts the 5th year of my career. So I have a lot of experience. And I feel that the product that I have in terms of your process and everything else and negotiating style, offer presentation, everything, I think I have one of the best packages in the industry. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but I invite you to just have a buyer's consultation with me to discuss that. So let's talk pretty much about the buy side. So we are going to see interest rates continue to go down. Even if you're starting to look now, by the time you're actually locking in your rate and even closing your mortgage, I would expect those interest rates will be significantly lower than they are today. So by that logic, it's probably a good time to start getting a little more serious about your search. So how do you do your search? There's a couple different ways to approach this. If you are tech savvy and you're someone that likes to peruse Zillow, you're pretty in tune with, the market, and as it hits the apps, whatever app you choose to use. I mean, I think Zillow is probably, one of the more reliable ones. Some people like Realtor or Trulia, which I believe Trulia is owned by Zillow, so it's not a huge difference there. The data is really all coming from the same place, which is our MLS. So in other words, when I put up a listing, my listing goes on the multiple listing service, the MLS. That's where all listings reside. And then from the MLS, which I really have no control over, it gets broadcast out to places like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor, all those places that you see. What a lot of people don't realize, even on my website or any realtor's website, when you see it on their website, they're getting the data from the same point. It's not that realtor's listing necessarily, unless they're saying it's their listing. That's a different story. But, all of our websites, my website, all the stuff on my website is identical to what's on Zillow. So the only real variance there is some websites, mine included, has more than one MLS. So really anything in New Jersey is going to be covered on my website. So what I generally recommend for people to do, if I'm assuming that you're a fairly savvy person who likes to peruse on Zillow, keep doing that. Have your safe searches and whatnot, so you're getting notifications as stuff hits the market. It'll come to you pretty much instantly. And then what I tell people is take that listing, text it over to me, and then I'll do a little extra due diligence. There's a lot of extra stuff we can see behind what's on Zillow. There's agent notes and stuff that are coming out of the MLS that we can see that you cannot. So when you see something that looks interesting, you're going to send it to me for two reasons. Number one, I'm going to see the information that you can't see and tell you if there's anything there we should be concerned about, or sometimes it's positive stuff, sometimes it's negative stuff. I can check days on market. I can call the agent and check the listing activity, see if it's definitely still available, see how many offers they've had, how many showings they've had, get an idea of, how anxious people are to buy that property. I can give you my opinion if I think that's a good fit for you based on what we've talked about prior to that. So there's a lot of extra information. So generally, I would say most of my clients do it that way. They have Zillow, they have their saved searches. They send me stuff as I say, hey, Craig, we'd like to take a look at this one. What do you think about it? That's great. I actually really like doing it that way. Alternatively, if a client comes to me and says, hey, we're not so great with that stuff, that's a different story, right? I'm going to take a more advisor role on it. I'm basically going to do all the things we just talked about, but I'm going to do it for you, and I'm going to send those to you. In addition to all that, you're going to be on an email from me. That email is going to capture, the first email you get from me is going to capture everything within the parameters that we've talked about: bedrooms, price point, location, all that. The first email you get from me will have every listing that hits those marks. Probably, if you are a Zillow user, it's probably stuff you've already seen already. Subsequent emails from me, I like to set them up as daily if you are pretty seriously looking. Subsequent emails from me will just have new listings and listings that have price changes. Now, we don't see too many price changes in the current market. We haven't seen price changes too much at all over the past few years. We are seeing a little bit more lately, but it's like compared to, like, say 2019. So there's a lot fewer price changes. I'd say that was probably the last year we regularly saw price changes because things just sell pretty quickly. So, my ideal recommendation for a client who's relatively tech savvy is go ahead and continue using your app, Zillow, Realtor, Trulia, whatever it may be. Use my emails as a safety net. So continue your active looking. You'll have my email come in every morning as kind of a passive safety net. Make sure maybe you missed it in your Zillow search, or we talked about a different area that you don't have a safe search for in Zillow, or whatever the case may be. So you got two sources right there. You can actually respond to my emails and say, hey, Craig, this one looks good. Let's take a look. That's how I would recommend. But again, if that's not you, if you're not someone that's super comfortable using the apps, then I can certainly change that process a little bit so that I am actively looking for you. But the first thing I'll recommend to any new buyer, especially first-time home buyers, is that we do have a buyer's consultation. I really wish that most people, I wish that all clients would do a buyer's consultation with me. I always offer it. What I think that I was talking about earlier how a lot of people just kind of like on their own make a decision. All right, it's time. Let's go start actively looking at homes. Hey, how do we look at homes? We need a realtor. All right, well, we want to look at this home, so we better find a realtor. It's not ideal because you're not like, you don't have time to like really kind of suss out and either get a recommendation from a friend to get a realtor or, Google or whatever your method is for finding a realtor. At least you can go through a process and find a proper realtor instead of we want to see a house. Oh, in order to see that, we need a realtor. What's the quickest way we can get a realtor who's available the quickest? You're not going to get the best agent that way. You get the best agent by doing some due diligence ahead of time. So what my recommendation is, hey, keep looking. In the meantime, let's have a buyer's consultation. Let's talk about the entire process. Let's talk about any potential challenges you have. Let's talk about if you have a pre-approval. If you don't have a pre-approval, let me recommend a few lenders to you. I always tell people my recommendations for anything, lenders, inspectors, contractors, whatever it may be, there is no incentive for me to use anyone that I'm recommending to you. I'm just giving you my best. And the reason I do that is very specific. In real estate, at any time that we take any sort of kickback or incentive for recommending a service, we have to disclose that. So to me, as a professional who takes my job very seriously and loves this job, loves working with people and building relationships, to me, any sort of kickback or incentive on recommending vendors to you is super tacky. So I just stay out of that. I do not take any sort of incentives or kickbacks or of any sort. The only time that potentially comes up with me personally is with home warranties. Now, I personally do not like home warranties. I do not ever recommend them unless it's a very, very particular situation. But that is the one place where the warranty company that I do recommend, if you're going to use one, does give me a kickback. I don't necessarily want it. That's just how they do it. It's a $75 kickback. I mean, if I'm selling a home and I get a commission check, I'm not worried about the $75. It's actually really silly in my opinion. But I do have to tell you that is the only time that I get some sort of incentive for recommending a service to you. It is not because I want the $75. It's just how they do it. Everyone else that I recommend to you, attorneys, lenders, contractors, inspectors, there's no incentive whatsoever. I'm just giving you my best. So, up front, we have a buyer's consultation. We start talking about those things. Why I recommend certain lenders, why you should start to think about using a local lender instead of a big national lender. Why that is going to make your offer stronger, other ways to make your offer stronger, what my strategies are for making your offer the best it can be, because we're still going to be in this multiple offer situation that we've been in for many years. I don't see that going away anytime soon. I think for the next many years, there's always going to be multiple offers. I will say over the last year or so, generally speaking, we're down to like 2 to 5 offers on most homes, as opposed to, 2-3 years ago when it was 20 offers per home. So it's a little bit easier for buyers. There are still going to be challenges. It's not easy to buy a house. So, but it's a little less frantic than it was in those prior years where everyone was scrambling for homes. What we have going on in the market right now, though, is interesting because rates have been high for, let's say 6 months, as high as they've been in many years. Now, historically, they're still below average. The historical average is typically around 8%. We haven't seen 8% anytime. As long as I've been in real estate, we've not had 8%. So historically, this entire time since 2019, when I got started, has been below average historically speaking rates, below average. It may not feel that way to people that were cognizant of the fact that a few years ago, people were getting 2.5% and 3% mortgages. If you talk to any lender, they're going to tell you those days are gone. They're most likely never coming back. That was a very specific set of circumstances that led to that. It obviously led to a market explosion. Everyone purchased homes. That was close to needing it. And then we had a little lull after that, and then the rates shot up, and that really caused a lull. So what I'm experiencing now as someone with a fairly big client database is that people are done waiting out rates. The rates are going down a little bit. That should probably listen. We can't predict rates, obviously. If we could, I wouldn't even have to sell homes. But all signs seem to point to rates should continue to trend downwards. What's happened because rates were higher is people were waiting it out. Speaking for my own client base, people were just waiting for those rates to start sliding in the right direction. And now they're calling me and saying, "Hey, Craig, it's a new year. It's 2024. Rates are seemingly moving in the right direction. Let's resume our search." So I'm getting a lot of that. I think across the industry, my colleagues in this building and everything else. I think that's what we're all kind of reporting. People are kind of springing back into action. So if you have the luxury of not having to wait till the spring market, it's really smart to be shopping right now because, yeah, the rates might continue to get lower. But as the rates get lower and we enter the spring market and then school starts letting out, you're going to be, competing with a lot more people. If you can actively be shopping now, it doesn't mean you have to spring on anything, but if you can actively be shopping now, obviously you have a little bit of advantage because some people just aren't able to do that right now because they have to wait for their kids to get out of school. They might be switching schools. Most people are kind of waiting for the inventory to improve in the spring and they're just like putting it out of their mind until that inventory shows up. But if you're kind of proactive and you start now, it's a good chance. I always tell people the best deals of the year are always in the winter because a lot of people just kind of shut it down for the winter. And if you're still actively shopping or at least keeping an eye on things, you can get really good deals because, you're not competing with the masses at that point. So the best way to kind of do that is to take a buyer's consultation now when we can kind of talk through the entire process. You have a really good understanding of what is to be expected and what's going to happen in the coming months. And then we can proceed. So that is what I would recommend. It's actually really startling how few people actually do that. I mean, if you're going to purchase a house with me, we're going to be working together for a while. So it's good to kind of get to know each other anyway, have full understanding of each other's goals and aspirations. And not wait till you're just looking to see a house and then calling whatever realtor happens to be available at that moment. I tell people this all the time. Like if you call a realtor and say, "Hey, can I see this house in an hour?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." You might get a good agent, but there's a good chance if that agent is like that available that maybe they're not the best agent. Maybe they don't have a lot of business going on. Maybe they really need you to buy that house because they are not making a good living in real estate. If you call me, there's a chance I might be available in an hour to show you a house. There's also a chance that I'm occupied with other clients or, doing office stuff or preparing a listing or whatever it may be. But I'll get you in there pretty quickly. And if I can't do it and you need to get in there in an hour, I have people behind me that will help accommodate that. So, again, it's just a matter of, this is a huge financial transaction for you. You find the dream house you want. It can be pretty devastating to find out that you found the perfect house. You grabbed whichever agent you found in that moment that, you click the button on Zillow, find me a realtor or whatever they call it, book a tour, which is not booking a tour. It's just contacting whatever agent paid to be in that spot. And then, yeah, great. They're available in an hour. They take you over there. You go through this whole process. You decide you're going to make an offer. You put in an offer. There's only 2 other offers. Things are looking good. And then you find out that your agent botched it. Your agent was not that great. They did something in their offer that was a red flag. I'm telling you as a listing agent, it happens all the time. It's, honestly, the majority of offers we get are flawed because there's kind of a low barrier to entry in this industry. A lot of part-timers. There's a lot of people that just don't do things very well. So, we get, 4 or 5 offers and, maybe only one of them is viable. So you want to make sure that you have an agent that's going to have you be that one that, puts together an offer that, looks great, feels great, and that the sellers are confident in, the listing agent is confident in. There's a very good chance I have a relationship existing with the listing agent. They're like, "Oh, good, Craig put an offer. I love working with Craig." Telling their sellers, "I love working with Craig. He's, very easy to work with and very trustworthy, and, there'll be no shenanigans," because honestly, that's the biggest concern for people these days. A lot of these transactions just kind of submarine, and a lot of times agents are to blame. Things that could be avoided that were not pointed out, or a contract that was not written correctly, or a detail that was missed. That's the biggest things that we see. So on the selling side, listen, it's still a seller's market. It's been a seller's market for probably coming up on the 4th year now. I don't see that changing anytime soon. There's just not enough. There's just not enough supply of homes to go around, and I think what we're going to be experiencing, and it'll slowly trickle away, but it's going to be very slow. Is that we have all these people sitting on 2.5% and 3% mortgages that maybe are not in the ideal home, but they're loving that mortgage, and they know if they get out of that mortgage, they're going to be stepping into a 6% mortgage. So people are hanging out in their homes and they're not putting them on the market to downgrade or upgrade or move or whatever they want to do. So that's kind of clogging up the supply. So if you do have something to sell, you will almost definitely have multiple offers. My only advice there has been my same advice I've been giving for this entire time is, again, when you pick your agent to sell your home in what's unquestionably a seller's market, any agent can sell your home. It's pretty easy. The demand is so great that it doesn't take much to sell a home. What it does take much to do is maximize the money you're going to get for your home when you sell it. Again, agents make some really boneheaded mistakes. They take pictures with their cell phone. They gatekeep, as we call it. They restrict showings. There's a company out there that has a national ad campaign. They have an NFL stadium that is really trying to, in their words, change the game around how they sell homes. And in the opinion of many real estate agents, it's a very, very flawed model for a variety of reasons that I'm not going to get into in a public forum. But a lot of the problems are around that gatekeeping. So in other words, restricting showings to a very small amount of time. Well, guess what? That's not super effective, especially here in New Jersey. Maybe in the metro areas, maybe, but Hunterdon County, Warren County, that doesn't work because, there's really no reason to restrict it. We don't have a ton of people here. It's not the feeding frenzy that it was in 2019. You don't want to restrict showings. You want to have that available for showing as much as possible. You want as many people seeing it. You want good professional pictures. You want video tours. You want Matterport or Zillow 3D tours. You want everything done properly so that it looks as good as it possibly can do. The biggest thing that you can do on a listing right now in terms of marketing it properly are really two things, in my opinion. And I get asked the question all the time, hey, we're about to sell our house. What if we did some new floors? What if we painted? What if we, whatever the question is, we're thinking about putting a lot of money into it. We're going to do a new kitchen to sell the house. Here's the thing you do. You don't have to do any of those things. You hire a stager, and you hire a good stager, because a stager is going to make those decisions for you. They're going to sub out the work and they're going to give you a quote. They're going to project manage the entire thing. And they are the experts in those decisions. Now I'm going to work with them. We're going to kind of brainstorm it, but that house is going to look immaculate. And that is the way to make the most money in this market. So it's a combination of that. That's number one, staging. Number two is video. Video is huge. So as part of my listing process, everything comes with a full listing or a full, listing walkthrough video, me on camera talking up your home, teamed with the staging we just talked about. So you're taking a video tour through this house that is impeccably staged. Those are the two. That's it. Because my last several listings I've sold, that was a major factor in people finding it, especially out here. Again, Hunterdon, Warren County. We have people moving here that might not even know these towns exist. It's not like they have a safe search I have one coming up in Asbury. It's going to be phenomenal. It's a great house. Not everyone knows Asbury exists. Not only that, but Asbury also goes by Franklin Township. It's a little confusing if you're not a local. But when we blast these things out on Facebook, we have a flashy video with it. It's staged properly. You're guaranteed that you're going to get as many eyes as possible on that listing. We're not going to restrict any showings. We're going to let everyone see it. That's the way to go. That is without a doubt how you get the best results in this market. So I think what's happened over the past 4 years is because, particularly on the listing side, because the process has gotten easier in terms of you're definitely going to get a buyer. right? That's the one thing we know. You're probably going to get multiple offers. So we've had a lot of people come into the industry. First of all, 5 years is a long time for anybody to even be in real estate. Most agents fail after 2 years. So what that means is most of the realtors, now when I say most of the realtors, most of the top agents have been around for a while, but most realtors, if you're looking at the entire pool of anyone who has a real estate license in New Jersey, the people that you could potentially be contacting to buy or sell a home in New Jersey, most of them are inexperienced. So, again, most agents are out within 2 years. If it's been 4 or 5 years since we've had a buyer's market, most of the people operating in the current market have only operated in one type of market, a seller's market. So they have not necessarily built up the skill set of how you market a property properly. So sure, you can put it on the MLS, stick a sign in the front yard, and just, you're going to get offers. But if 1,000 people saw that listing in the time it was on the market, you had one open house, you got a couple offers, fine. If you had done that properly, would it have been 10,000 people that saw that? Do you think you're going to get more money for your house if 10,000 people see it as opposed to 1,000 people? So that's the big differentiator of agents. And again, if you're going to sell your house, it's a major financial transaction. It's almost like it's easy to say that every time someone buys or sells a home, every single time they do it, most of us are going to do that 2 or 3 times in our lifetime. Every single time someone does that, it is the biggest financial transaction of their life. It could be an upgrade, it could be a downgrade, it could be a lateral move, whatever it is, it's still the most important financial transaction of their life. So don't you think it's smart to just make sure that the person who's kind of spearheading that effort is someone that you chose deliberately instead of chose by chance or an ad or Zillow or whatever? It's honestly, that's why, the majority of my business comes from referral, because people that work with me say, hey, if I find anyone else that's looking to do something, I'll definitely recommend them to you. And I get calls and I say, hey, so-and-so recommended me because you helped them with their house. So that's the majority of my business. Any good top agent, that's how they get the majority of their business by far. And there's a reason for that, because people that have a good experience with a real estate agent, understand the difference between, if they hear a friend say, hey, yeah, we're thinking about buying or selling our house, and one of my clients is standing nearby, they, oh my God, you got to put you in touch with Craig. Craig is the guy you should contact. He will take good care of you. And that's how we stay in business. So those are the things that are going on now. So on both ends, buying and selling, engage early. Don't wait too long to find an agent. Don't find the house first, then find an agent. That's backwards. Find the agent first, and then find the house, because there's so much more to the story, right? Take that buyer's consultation. By the way, if anyone wants a buyer's consultation, I am happy to do that with you. That does not mean you have to do business with me. I think, if you're comfortable after we have a buyer's consultation, I'm happy to take you as a client, presuming you're in, my area. If you're not in my area, I can refer you to a good agent. That helps both of us. But I'm happy to take that advisory role up front and just kind of help you get that process started, regardless of whether or not you choose to do business with me. That's something I've done my entire career. It just tends to work out. Tend to end up doing business with people that want to do business with me. If not, I leave someone with a little bit of education. We have a nice conversation and it's done. So I honestly can't say that's happened too much. Usually if we have a consultation, I'm working with that person. But yeah, I'm happy to do that for anyone. So I think that's it. Hopefully Instagram worked out today. I have no idea. I can't really tell through the streaming platform I used if it's working. I actually can't even tell who's watching. So one of the limitations of streaming to multiple places at once, but wherever you're seeing me, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, I think that's all of them. Feel free to drop in the comments. I will see it afterwards. You can actually comment now and I will see it. On Facebook, it's going to ask you to do a little confirmation of your identity there. No big deal. It's 2 clicks. But anywhere else that you see me, go ahead and comment on the video and let me know a couple things. Number one, if you're interested in me contacting you as far as having a buyer's consultation or seller's consultation, I'm happy to do that. You can always private message me, as well as if there's anything you'd like me to talk about in future broadcasts. This was just kind of a kickoff and a quick one. But if there's a subject you would like me to cover in a future broadcast, please go ahead and drop that in the comments and I will take care of it. Thank you so much for the past year. My subscriber basis has grown immensely, particularly on TikTok and YouTube. So I very much appreciate if you're on one of those platforms and you're just passing through. That is incredible. And I really appreciate that. That helps me, that helps my family, and that is very appreciated. Yeah, I think it's going to be good 2024 in real estate. I think it's going to be an active year. Last year was a really tough year. I was able to have a pretty good year. I think a lot of agents really struggled last year. I think a lot of buyers really struggled last year because it was just really hard to find something. Rates were super high, not a lot of inventory, a lot of disappointment. I think we're going to start getting out of that. It's got to get better at some point for buyers. I think for the most part it has, like I said, in 2020, there's 20 offers on every home. It was, even though it would seem like a real estate professional would say that was a great year, it was from, a purely financial standpoint, but it's not how I like to do business. It was very frantic and a lot of disappointment, a lot of emotions. We found that transactions were a lot more emotional, buyer and seller butting heads a lot more because of the amount of money that was being paid for homes. We would like to get away from all that and just kind of stabilize and just have, nice transactions where everyone's kind of, getting along and at least being logical about, negotiating inspection repairs and stuff like that. That is definitely the preferred way to go about it. I think we're going to start to see more of that in 2024. So if you are interested or anyone interested in transacting real estate in 2024, please put them in touch with me. I always appreciate referrals. That is literally what feeds my family. So if there's anything I can do for you at any time, real estate or otherwise, please go ahead and reach out via any of the platforms that you're watching through. Go ahead and hit me up in the messages. All right. I hope you all have a great weekend. I hope everyone's staying healthy. I know a lot of people getting sick out there, and I've hearing murmurs of COVID coming back and yada, 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 but let's try and stay positive and everyone try and stay healthy and have a great 2024. And I will see you all next week. All right. Take care.